morning, this is Furniture for You. My name's Nevaeh. How may I help you?
Hi, morning Nevaeh. I had delivery sent out last Wednesday, but it hasn't arrived yet. Do you think you could help me out a bit?
Oh, sure, yeah, I'm very sorry about that. I'll get it sorted straight away. Can I just take your full name for identification, please?
Yeah, sure. It's Sufyan. That's Sufyan.
Right.
And then the surname is just the letter X.
What?
Just the letter X. my surname's X, so the name is Sufyan X. Just the letter X.
Really? That's so odd. Are you sure that's your name? Are you having me on?
Yeah, definitely sure. It's been my name my whole life.
How interesting. How cool and exotic. I bet you get loads of questions about that.
Yeah, you have no idea.
Ooh, so should I call you Mr. X then? Or maybe Professor X?
Yeah, I guess.
Alright, Mr. X. Do you mind me asking where that comes from?
Well, my dad named me X, so blame it on him.
Yeah, but what's the story? I mean, I'm called Nevaeh, which is heaven backwards. I know it's beautiful, but I'm no angel, I'll tell you. So where's it from?
Haha, yeah. Have you heard of Malcolm X? I'm kind of named after him.
Malcolm X. Yeah, I think I have heard of him. He's that famous scientist.
No.
Oh, the basketballer. He's a basketballer.
No.
Oh, silly me. He's in that movie Training Day.
Huh? Assalamu alaikum guys, what's going on? My name's Sufyan.
My name's Amar.
We are the X's and welcome back to the channel.
We've been gone.
Yeah, but let us not dwell. Two things that you'll notice. Number one, my beard is back. And number two, Amara is way more beautiful than she was before. I don't know if it's just my eyes or if it's the lens. So in today's video, we are going to discuss a topic and a question which has plagued me my whole life. And a lot of people have asked us on the channel. And that is, why are we called the X's?
I was like, every time you say your name to anybody, it goes off and I'm just like, oh gosh, here we go.
Like, here we go. Sometimes I'm going to start giving random answers just to see what, they're not listening half the time anyway. Instead of giving you the short version, we thought we'd make it a video because it is quite an interesting tale or quite an interesting background. Long story short, we are called the X's because we're married and because my name is Sufyan X. My surname is the letter X. Just the letter X. An X like that. Okay, that is my name. So thanks for watching and make sure you like and subscribe and we'll see you next week. Actually, on my birth certificate, I don't know if it's my birth certificate or when you're born you get like a little label or
I think it was on your little baby band.
Yeah, so no shade, but my dad wasn't there when I was born, not because of any reasons. I think he was just running late or something like that. So when I was born, they were looking for my name and my mother's surname is actually Butt. B-U-T-T, swerve all the jokes that old. On my, I think they stuck a label to my leg or something like that and they call me Baby Butt.
No baby butt, no baby butt.
I'm not going to try to...
And to this day, that is his name,
Yeah.
Baby Butt.
Yeah, so my name, my actual name is Sufyan. Then I've got my dad's name and my surname is the letter X. So I'm named after my father, but my father's name was not always what his name is now. We will hear from my dad at some point on the channel, inshallah. He's going to tell you his whole story, but let me just fill you in a little bit. So my dad was not born a Muslim. My dad was a Christian or came from a Christian background and his name was Brian Stewart. You say Brian Stewart, you think of this white man. Yeah, Brian! If you say it like that, do you know he's not white?
I did not associate your dad with the name Brian.
Brian! So he was called Brian Stewart, and when he embraced Islam, as many Muslims do, he changed his name. So he changed his first name from Brian to Bilal. Bilal is significant in Islam because the first black Muslim to embrace Islam, or the first black man to embrace Islam, was called Bilal. And his last name, he changed it from Stewart to X. So this is in the same vein as Malcolm X and many other people, and black people in particular at that time. And still to this day, you'll find a lot of people with the surname X. My dad changed his name from Stewart because he didn't want a slave name. And there's a whole story and a whole load of significance behind the name, but we are named after Malcolm X, so to speak. So if you don't know who Malcolm X is, Where have you been? He's not a rapper, and he's not Denzel Washington either. Although Denzel Washington did play him.
He did play him. I was going to say, why do I think they look similar?
He did play
him.
him.
He played him.
If you don't know about Malcolm X, you come to the right place, because I'm going to fill you in a little bit here and just give you a quick crash course on who Malcolm X was. Malcolm X was born in 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. He was named Malcolm Little after his parents, Louise and Earl Little. Louise Little was mother to 8 children, each of which she protected from racist attacks. His father, Earl Little, was a Baptist minister and a supporter of the black nationalist and Pan-African activist Marcus Garvey. As a response to this, his family was constantly harassed, and when Malcolm was just 4 years old, his house was burned down by the Ku Klux Klan. His family moved to Michigan, but nothing changed. They were threatened by the Black Legion, another white supremacist group, and 4 of Malcolm's uncles were murdered. When Malcolm was 6 years old, his father was killed when he was run over by a streetcar. His mother and many others maintained he was murdered by the Black Legion. After his father's death, the family fell apart. When Malcolm was 13, his mother was committed to a mental institution, and Malcolm, along with his siblings, were split up and placed into care. Malcolm dropped out of school after being told by a white teacher that it was unrealistic for a young black boy to have dreams of becoming a lawyer. The years that followed for Malcolm were rife with criminal activity. Drug dealing, robbery, pimping, and eventually Malcolm was sentenced to 10 years in prison after being arrested for burglary. This is where everything started to change. When Malcolm was in prison, he spent time furthering his education, and visits from his brother encouraged him to explore the Nation of Islam and its leader, Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad taught his followers about black independence and rubbished the claims of white supremacy, stating that black people were actually the original inhabitants of the earth. Malcolm began writing letters to Elijah Muhammad, and they both formed a close bond. Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam taught their followers to abandon their family names, as they were actually the names of their slave owners. They were told that X signified what their real tribal name should be, so Malcolm Little changed his name and became Malcolm X. Malcolm was very successful in the Nation of Islam and helped the membership rise from 500 to 30,000. However, with his rise in popularity, he gained attention from the government. They started to view him as a threat. His famous approach of by any means necessary taught black people to defend themselves when being attacked by the white man. The government feared a rebellion. In 1958, Malcolm married a nurse, Betty Shabazz. Malcolm eventually split from the Nation of Islam after a disagreement with Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm did not agree with Elijah Muhammad's views and felt he had lost his way. Malcolm claimed he was pushed out of the organisation after learning Elijah Muhammad had fathered many children from within the Nation of Islam. In 1964, Malcolm went on to set up his own organisation, the Muslim Mosque, and later that year performed Hajj, the Muslim pilgrimage. This changed everything for Malcolm. He met Muslims of all creed and colour who shared the same values. The white Muslim was nothing like the white man from America. Malcolm grew in popularity and had established himself as a leader in the Muslim faith, a spokesperson for Pan-African men and women, a civil rights activist, and one of the main figureheads behind the Black Power movement. On February 14th, 1965, his family home was firebombed. Remarkably, no one was harmed. However, 1 week later, on the 21st of February 1965, Malcolm was speaking in front of a crowd of people in Manhattan, and at the age of 39 years old, was shot down and assassinated. Over 1,500 people attended his funeral, and later that year his daughters Malak and Malika were born and named after him. His memory, message and name lives on to this day. Okay, so that's a little bit about Malcolm X. Look into him, really. He's like an amazing guy, was an amazing guy, and his message still rings true and like very powerfully in the hearts of many people to this day. He's one of the most famous Muslims of the modern world, again, in the past 100 years or so. Maybe someone put Muhammad Ali up with him as well. And like one of the black Muslims, you know, one of the popular black Muslims who every black man and black Muslim will know about. And a lot of Muslims in general. So, getting back to the name, my name is Sufyan X. Now, X is actually like the algebraic symbol. You know X, if you say like 2x equals 12, that means 2 times something. X symbolizes a mystery. Here's 6. It means 2 times something equals 12. So, algebraic X looks like that, doesn't it? Yeah. It's a mystery because we don't know what our original names were. So this is obviously off the back of the Transatlantic Slave Trade. Fancy word for a nasty thing. What happened was people from the West, America in particular, and some European countries, went across to Africa, basically captured the people there, took them as their slaves and property, brought them back over the Atlantic and had them work for them as slaves for 400, 500 years.
That's crazy.
Okay, so that is the Transatlantic Slave Trade. And the first thing that they did once they captured these African men and women was in an attempt to rob them of their identity. The first thing you do is take somebody's name from them. So they'd use words such as book and wench, and they just call them these tag names, the names of animals and things like that. So what happened is the names went from boy, girl, wench, book, and then eventually people were given English names, Western names so to speak. But it'd be a short name, so it'd be something like Tom, something like Sam, Harry, very short to the point kind of names, yeah. The white men would go back to the house and the slaves would kind of live in their own quarters outside, like in like the little farmhouses and things like that. So in the slave quarters, these African people still used to refer to people by their own name. They had like two names, so they had their name such as Tom, which is the English, the Western, the white slave name, and then they had their own names which rang true and held onto their identity and held onto their like kind of values. So names such as, I'm just going to be reading them off while I'm here. So names such as Sabe, Ankwe, Bumbo, Joba, Kwamana, Tene, Yeri. You can hear that these aren't names like Tom. So people would still refer to these names behind, well, I guess in their own quarters, and they would still name their children with these names as a sense of identity. Okay, so what happened was me and Amara did some research, and we went and we looked at old newspapers to find the most common slave names for men and women.
These are basically advertisements in the newspaper, either like saying, oh, we're going to have a fair where we're like selling slaves, or we've got these slaves for offer, or if you find this slave that's right. I feel weird saying slave.
Yeah, I know. It's the same basic, look, this slave's got away, can you find him? If you find him, return him. This is how much it costs, and if he doesn't return, then kill him.
So disgusting. I can't imagine it's adverts for people, adverts to buy people, just treating them like they're nothing, just buying and selling people. That's disgusting.
Nasty, disgusting. So what we did, we looked for the most common names that popped up. We found like over 100 names, okay? Bear in mind that we're talking about going into the depths of Africa, taking people who speak their native language and will have their native tongue and native names, bringing them back over here and then giving them a new name, stripping them of identity. Now let's see how familiar some of these names are, okay? So don't mind us looking down, we've just printed them out on paper. It makes it a bit easier just for us to read out some of the names.
Some of the guys' slave names, these are names that were found in advertisements about them. Bill, Taylor, William, John, Jim, Tom, Arthur, Patrick, Owen, Andy,
Craig, Nelson, Joshua. Yeah, so these are names that a lot of people have to this day. Yeah? So that's the males. Then you've got the female names as well.
Julia, Mary, Eliza, Hannah, Anne, Kitty, Jane, Lucy, Nancy, Betty, Eliza.
Charlotte's there as well, isn't it? Yeah, there's a Charlotte.
Oh yeah, Charlotte.
So these are just some common names that obviously people have to this day. And I'm not critiquing anyone, I'm not criticising anybody that's got these names, but I think it's really interesting, whilst people are asking like why we are called the X's, that we just dive into like the origin of some of the names that we have and like practice so freely. So, my dad changed his name from Brian Stewart to Bilal X. Okay, he has a middle name as well, it's still a Muslim name, but I don't want to put out the government out there in case he slaps me in my face or something like that. He's got big hands. He said obviously he's replacing the slave name, so X is in place of the slave name. Let's just talk about surnames quickly. So what would happen is they would be called Tom, just give them this one Tom name, and then eventually they would like try to develop that name and then call themselves Thomas for a bit more dignity. And if these slaves had a surname, at that time the surname would be the family's surname that owned them, okay? So in terms of Stewart, the name Stewart actually means swineherder, pig farmer, a farmer basically. And my dad's always told, listen, my name was Stewart, I'm not being called Brian the pig farmer. You know what I mean? If that's where they got their name from, the Stewarts, if it came from the family that they used to work for, then the family that they were working for were farmers. And names were very simple like this back in the day, especially in the West. So you were called whatever you did. Yeah. So for instance, if you were a blacksmith, your surname is Smith. If you were a tailor, your surname is Taylor. If you were a butler, your surname is Butler. So some of these are really, really simple, yeah? But some of them are a little bit more interesting. You might not actually know that this is the job, or this is the role, or this is the region associated to the name that you do have.
So Walker, the surname Walker, that came from people that used to, as a job, have to walk on wet wool to like clean and thicken it.
Okay. Roberts I know loads of people with the surname Roberts, yeah? And it's meaning fame, so the Roberts were famous or intelligent people. They were from like a learned background, so to speak. Yeah.
This one's funny. So I never knew this before. If you call it Robinson or like Thompson, it literally means son of Robin or son of Tom. That's what that one's from.
Kind of straightforward.
I never knew that one.
Basic language.
Jackson, son of Jack. No offense if your name's Jackson. I'm not laughing at your name. I just didn't know. Wood. If your name was Wood, it was people that worked or lived in a forest. Who would have thought?
With names like Green. So Green, you walked near the grasses and the fields. You worked in the fields, out in the fields. I know a lot of people call Clark. It comes from like cleric. So clerks were generically priests. One of the names for somebody who was free was Freeman, obviously. So you got Freeman because you're a free man now. So where did the names come from? A lot of them were slave names. And I just find it really interesting that to this day now, people still have the English names. Now I know that we're living in England and listen, but we're not trying to say you should not have a white man's name. That's not what I'm saying. I just find it interesting.
To know the origin of what it's from. Yeah.
I think as I'm getting a bit older, like I'm changing my understanding of certain things and like a name is important. You know? So I am Sufyan X. That's why we call it X's. But Amara's name is not Amara X. She's Mrs. X. But she's not Amara X.
I did consider double barreling for a while because I do love the X. But that's not my name. My name is Amara Muhammad. And my name comes from my father. Like, that's my father's name. Technically, in Islam, meant to take your father's first name. But I grew up with Muhammad and I was really used to it. So that's in his name anyway, so I just kept that. So in Islam, you're meant to take your father's name because when I marry Sufyan, I don't lose who I am and just become him then. Do you know what I mean? Like,
she's not my property.
I'm not Amara X.
Yeah, she's not my property.
I'm not Amara X, I'm Amara Muhammad. I've always been Amara Muhammad. That's my name, yeah. And it comes from my father. I don't take my husband's name. I have my father's name because I'm not my husband's property. I've come from my parents. I've come from my father.
Yeah. Now again, anybody who is not Muslim or even is Muslim and are getting married and taking their husbands or wives, well, people take wives' names these days, but we're taking their significant other's surname, that does not mean that, oh, well, we think that you're that person's property. It's just the tradition in Islam is to name the child after the father.
Even in terms of adoption, so even if you adopt a child, you're meant to give the child, it's like really important in Islam to keep the child's original father's name.
If you know it.
Yeah, if you know it. The Prophet ﷺ, he adopted somebody, he adopted a boy, and when that happened, you know, he changed his name to his name and he was like, oh, you're my son and everything. And I came down into the Quran saying, no, give the boy the original father's name. Like, don't take that from them. So then the Prophet changed it back and let him have his father's name. But even like the Prophet ﷺ, who has such an honourable name and you'd want his surname, even he was told, no, give the biological father the right of having the name with the child and give the child the right to like know their father's name.
And it says because this is more just.
What is in a name? We'll let you know. In Arabic tradition, I didn't know this until we researched for this video. It's really interesting how they make names. It's got so many levels to it. There are so many chasms, there's so many parts to having a name in Arabic, and there's so many names you can have that it makes me think when we have children, I want to have like 700 names.
Yeah, that'd be amazing, isn't it? First name is your ism. Ism is just your name. You can say Ismi Sufyan.
Ismi Amara.
Yeah, see my Arabic's up to scratch.
Listen if we said it wrong.
So my name Sufyan means sandstorm, walking thunderstorm. Oh, look at that. Amara's name, what does it mean?
This is only one interpretation. One is tall building.
Yes, because she
me.
tall and has
I'm only
such good
5'6".
foundations and morals.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm a tall building looking for my sandstorm. And the other meaning is eternal light.
Something like that, yeah.
It's a beacon. So the second like level of Arabic names is a nasab. Ibn, which is like son of, or bint, which is like daughter of. So you give that little familial relation kind of tag. So Sufyan would be
Sufyan ibn
Bilal.
Yeah, so I'm Sufyan, son of Bilal.
S.O.B.
The next one is the laqab. L-A-Q-A-B.
This is my favourite one.
There's another one that's a bit like this as well. So laqab is like a nickname which describes your characteristics. So you're given your first name, obviously it's just a kid and you think, oh, you know, he looks like, where he was kicking his legs, he looks like he'll be a thunderstorm. Sufyan, as you go through life, you've done something, yeah?
You've been like super kind, or you're like super generous,
you
or
have this character
brave.
trait. So for instance, I don't know if anybody's seen Berserk, which is an anime that I love. It's called Guts, the 100-Man Slayer, because you can call me Sufyan, the 100-Man Slayer.
You want to be the 100-Man Slayer. I want to be Amara, the warrior. Why are you looking like you don't believe that? Amara, the ultimate Amara, the sexy warrior. Savage warrior!
Alright.
Oh yeah.
You can see what kind of...
Oh, Amara, the savage but just warrior.
Okay. So it'll be like Sufyan, son of Bilal, the patient husband. After the laqab, you have a nisba. A nisba is like a surname, it's like an everyday surname, and this generally kind of related to the region that people were from. Well, let's say I'm from Manchester, I'll be called Al-Manchester. But you get names like Al-Baghdadi, it's like he's from Baghdad. This is such and such.
Amara from the islands.
Yeah.
Amara al-Islandi.
Yeah. Okay, so this one's called the kunya. This name is basically given to someone. It's kind of a nickname, but it's in reference to... So let's say I'm given a kunya, and it's in reference to my first son or daughter.
You as the parent, or you as
me as the parent, and it's in reference to my first son or daughter. Yeah. For example, this guy was called Sabri Khalil Al-Banna, and he was known as Abu Nidal, which is the father of struggle. Yeah, so I guess his kids are doing the madness, isn't it? If your kid was like the savior or something, he's like the father of righteousness or something.
Oh yeah,
like
that's what you want.
You know, things like that.
Who gives you that? You choose it yourself?
I don't know. It's just
Speak it into existence.
So those are basically the rules of the Arabic name, okay?
Cool, so many layers to that. I feel like my name's a bit lacking now. Like, where's my Amara the brave, or you know what I mean?
But that name, you develop it later.
Yeah, but nobody's told me. I'm 28. Nobody's given me it.
Time to know. No,
so, but did I give myself it?
You're not done enough yet. The YouTuber.
No. I'm so excited. When we have children, I'm just gonna get them all done.
Yeah.
Just gonna slam all of their things into it and speak it into existence.
This is what I thought was really interesting, because I like certain names and I always thought, oh, these names sound cool. Yeah. You know, but that name and that name together might sound cool.
Layla.
Oh,
like Layla.
Layla Rodriguez. Oi.
Layla.
Yeah, she's on fire.
I always used to practice Skit. You'd be like, Layla, Yahya, your dinner's ready.
Yeah.
Like, Yahya, Layla. I think it sounds nice.
They're good names, yeah.
They are good names.
But it's because we're picking them because they sound nice.
Yeah, I have no idea what they mean at all.
So now I just thought, with the video topic of why are we called the X's, I thought I'd explain why my name is Sufyan X. And this is what the X symbolizes. I do know what my first name means. I do have my father's full name in my name, which I really actually love. I never used to like having Bilal in my name, but I actually love it now that I'm older and that I've got my dad's name in my name.
It's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I really love that. I never actually thought about putting Sufyan in my son's name or daughter's name. I don't know if it fit, but you know, I've never thought about that, and I still want it to sound right, but I just feel like my whole approach to names after this is a bit different. You know what
it means as well? Your name is not limited to when you're born. Your name develops and grows as you get older. And who is to tell you when your naming is done? Yeah. Listen, if you're 70, add on another name if you want. I'm gonna add on so many names.
Yeah, black people do the most as well, because I'll tell you, black people got about 17 middle names.
So they should!
It is, bro.
So they should!
So basically, hit us in the comments. Let us know what you think about anything we've spoken about. Let us know what your names are and where they come from.
You sound like you're trying to gather personal identity advice.
I think it's rather interesting.
Leave your insurance details below.
Like I said, we're just giving some factual information here that we researched and we thought was really, really interesting. No offense to anybody who does have any of the names that we mentioned. This isn't to say that, oh, you have a slave name, get rid of it. This is just a viewpoint which some people hold, and that is why some people do change to the letter X and change their names to other things. So think about your names. Think about your names, yeah? Think about what's going on behind the names, and I hope you've liked the video.
Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next week, inshallah.
And I'm just going to leave you with a quote from Malcolm X, which actually kind of sums up everything quite nicely. We are the X's. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
I've always had the name on my passport, Malik El-Shabazz, only I only used it in the Muslim world.
Will you now use Shabazz and drop X?
I'll probably continue to use Malcolm X, and I'll probably use it as long as the situation that produced it exists.